Good evening and welcome to the May 2016 Richardson Law Office's Legal Hangout. This is May. It's graduation season for all those college students or those getting advanced degrees, going to professional schools like medical school or law school or getting an MBA. So a lot of parties, a lot of caps and gowns. I've attended two graduations this year. My niece graduated from the University of Colorado Springs back on May 13th. And then my nephew graduated from the College of New Jersey with a degree in electrical engineering. He's going on to graduate school to get his PhD. So, graduation season and a lot of congratulations parties. You should be proud of yourself for that achievement. But then once it's all over, once the celebrations are all over, it's back to business because if you've taken out any student loans, now is the time where you have to start thinking about repaying them and how you're going to do that. So I covered this topic last year, but I thought it was an important topic for this month to do it again. And there have been some changes. But most of them shouldn't affect you as a new graduate, but things that we should stress. So let's talk about what you need to do, what kind of strategy you need to put together so that you can hit the ground running and be ready to get some sort of strategy going. And I found that, if you're worrying about this and you're stressing out, how am I going to pay for my student loans? Knowing you have some sort of plan that you're doing something about it can really reduce the stress and get you calmed down and realize that it's going to be okay and you're going to be able to do something about it. So the first thing you're going to want to do in dealing with your student loans is gather all the information together. First thing, get it all in one place, put together a folder, file folder with everything together, and if you've taken out some private loans, they get together copies of all the notes, when they were taking out, how much you borrowed, that sort of thing. Maybe make a spreadsheet on your computer. When the loan was taken out, the amount that was borrowed, the interest rate, things like that. If you have for your federal loans, I would recommend you go to the National Student Loan Data System. This is an online database maintained by the U.S. Department of Education and is great. It provides all sorts of information about your federal student loans, pretty much everything you need to know. And if you've been in school for a while, even if only just for 4 years for an undergraduate degree, you may have forgotten about some of those loans you took out in your freshman year. So it's a good refresher to get all that information in one place, especially if you're graduating from graduate school and looking back over all of that information. So go to nslds.ed.gov. You'll need an ID, basically a login and password, which you can get. And get in there, find out everything you need to know, get all that information together, print it out, put it in that folder so you have it all in one place. Now you have all that information together. You got to figure out, all right, when do I have to start repaying it? Now, and what is your monthly payment? So for the private loans or for the New Jersey class loans, a lot of times you may well end up owing more than you originally borrowed. And this has to do with interest capitalization. And it can depend upon the type of note that you have. But oftentimes, say it's freshman year, you borrow a certain amount of money. Well, while you're in that in-school deferment, income is continuing to accumulate. Now, I'm talking right now just about private loans and loans here in New Jersey taken out through the New Jersey Class Loan System program through the Higher Education Student Assistance Authority of New Jersey. And whether or not that interest is accumulated really goes by the terms of the note. For example, with class loans, you may have, when you took out the loan, agreed to make interest-only payments while you were in school. You're not paying principal as well as interest, not making a regular payment, but there wasn't any complete in-school deferment either. So there may not be, you may have kept your head above water and treaded water by making the interest payments, so that by the time you graduate, you owe the same amount of money as you did, as you originally borrowed. But you want to find out what the balance is, and then what the monthly payment's going to be, because if the balance is going up due to the interest capitalization, then they'll have to re-amortize the note at the interest rate to come up with a monthly payment. So you're going to want to reach out to each bank for the private loans, and to each and to the Higher Education Student Assistance Authority, and say, okay, I've graduated. When do I have to start paying? With class loans, it's usually 60 days after graduation. You really want to follow up. That ain't all that great in letting you know things. So be proactive, call them, find out. When do the payments start? What's my monthly payment? And then get that out on your calendar, because you have to be ready for those, to make those payments. And then have that part of your spreadsheet. When payments begin for each of those loans. You have all the information you have. Now, for a lot of these loans, for federal loans, for example, federal loans have a 6-month grace period following graduation for undergraduate loans. Okay, if you've taken out graduate plus loans for that MBA or that master's degree, there is a 6-month deferment that you can get, but you have to ask for it. So you may need a little bit of time to get all your ducks in a row. You're dealing with your undergraduate loans, now you got your graduate school loans. So give yourself a breather, make sure you don't have a problem, and request a deferment on those graduate plus loans, those federal graduate plus loans. And then call your loan servicer, and this is specifically with the federal loans. You've gotten all the information together on the private loans and on the class loans. Now we're looking at that NSLDS printout and all these other loans, and you're going to see at the bottom of each page for each loan who the servicer is. So you want to contact the servicer. Maybe the same servicer for all your loans. They could be different, but contact them. Find out, if you do nothing, eventually you'll get a notice from the servicer on your federal student loan saying, okay, here's when the payments begin. This is the amount of money you have to pay every month. And that's based on a 10-year repayment period amortized at the interest rate. That's the default. Now, if you can afford that, great, because it's 10 years, it's done, it's paid off, and wonderful. If you have a job and you're able to do that. But if you don't have a job, then you have to look at something that's income driven. Now, one thing, please don't do with your federal loans, okay? Don't hide out in a deferment or forbearance, okay? What happens is, a lot of times, people say, well, I don't have a job yet. I've graduated school, but I don't have a job. And I can't make the payments because I'm not making any money. So they'll go into, they think the only thing they can do is to go into some sort of deferment or forbearance, and while they're in that, get a job, and then come out of that cocoon of the forbearance and deferment and start making payments. I really do not recommend you do that with federal loans because of what's called income-driven repayment, IDR. Income-driven repayment is just that. It's a calculation of your monthly payment based on your income. Now, if you have a job, the problem is not that you're not employed. The problem is the sticker shock of once you talk to the servicer and they told you what the 10-year fixed repayment amount was, you realized you couldn't afford it. So you say, well, is there any way I can get a lower payment? Well, that's when you go into income-driven repayment and say, okay, let's see if there's some sort of financial hardship that will qualify you for income-driven repayment. And the financial hardship is basically defined as that 10-year fixed monthly payment exceeding a certain percentage of your disposable income. Now, for those of you in the class of 2016, there is a a repayment plan called Pay As You Earn. Now, Pay As You Earn is not available to everybody, but I can say if you're graduating college, a 4-year college, and you've been borrowing for 4 years, so you went in 2012 and you graduate in 2016, you can get Pay As You Earn, Pay As You Earn plan program for income-driven repayment. But if you've been in and out of school, or you had a lot of postgraduate work or postgraduate degrees, and you have some loans that predate October 1st, 2007, you may not be able to qualify for, well, you won't qualify for Pay As You Earn because you have a balance predates October 1, 2007. So all of this when I'm talking about Pay As You Earn as an option is if you were not in school or were not borrowing in 2007 or prior to that. So we have with Pay As You Earn, if the regular monthly payment, 10-year fixed, exceeds 10% of your disposable income, then it's presumed to be a financial hardship to make that payment. So your servers are looking at it, and you can apply for a pay-as-you-earn payment, and you say, okay, here are all my loans, their interest rates, and here is how many people in my family. Now, if you're unmarried, it's just you, then it's you. Sometimes folks get married, they have kids, and they graduated college, so it may be another issue of family size. And Pay As You Earn will look at your income and compare that to, if you have income, compare that to the 10-year fixed payment. And if it blows past that cap, that 10% cap, then you'll be given a lower payment. And depending upon your income and depending upon the total amount of your loans, it is possible that your monthly payment will be $0. Great. You actually have a payment. You don't have to send a check in for $0. But it's like having a deferment or a forbearance for 12 months without being in a deferment or a forbearance. So you're actually, it's considered making a payment. And then every 12 months, it's reevaluated. They take a look at your income again. Or if you're not employed at all, you have no income, well, guess what? Chances are Pay As You Earn will calculate a $0 monthly payment, and then you get a job. So every 12 months it recalculates. All right, how much are you making? If you are making anything, what is your family size? Has that changed in the last 12 months? And then they'll recalculate that payment every 12 months to get a new payment going forward for the next 12 months. So obviously circumstances can change. Now it will cap, under Pay As You Earn, it will cap at 10% of your disposable income or the regular monthly payment under 10-year fixed, whichever is lower. So worst case scenario is your 10-year fixed payment. Best case scenario is $0. Okay, and you have that range. Now this can go on in Pay As You Earn for up to 20 years. If you stay in it and you adjust, and once you're in, really, there's because it's capped at 10-year fixed, there's no reason to leave it because you may pay off in less than 20 years if you're able to make the regular payment, but that program, Pay As You Earn, will just continue to adjust your monthly payment with your income. Now, you get at the end of the 20 years and there's a balance left over, that is discharged. But under our current tax laws, that would be considered taxable income for federal income tax purposes. That may change at some point, and there's been some talk of that, but right now under the laws, there is a tax issue as far as that forgiveness is concerned. You can see why I really don't recommend people go into a deferment or forbearance when they can go on a federal student loan, because they can just go into an income-driven plan. And what happens, tragically enough, on top of that, is if you're in a forbearance, any interest that accumulates during the forbearance will get added into principal at the end of the forbearance, so you end up owing more money. This can also happen under a deferment, but only if you have an unsubsidized federal loan. Subsidized federal loans, that doesn't happen because the interest is subsidized. The U.S. government pays the interest during the period of time you're in deferment. So why make the balance go up when you can get into an income-driven repayment plan and have hopefully an affordable payment, or if you have no income, a zero payment. Now that's you single. Let's say you're in a situation where you're married. Maybe you got married before graduation, or from college, or from your graduate school, you're now married, and you've been filing joint tax returns. Well, if you have, then your spouse's income is going to be included in the calculation. They're going to look at the adjusted gross income from last year's tax return. Now, under pay-as-you-earn, what you could do is file separate tax returns. And you talk to a tax professional to find out what the impact would be from a tax standpoint, and also talk to a student loan professional about what a payment might be without your spouse's income. And if you're saving more money under an income-driven repayment plan without your spouse's income than you are paying in extra taxes because you filed separate tax returns, well, that's the better deal, because you're still ahead of the game. And you might want to consider filing separate tax returns in that instance, or talking about it to a tax professional about whether it's possible to file amended separate returns or whatever it is. But that the spouse's income, because they look at AGI, adjusted gross income on the tax returns, file a joint tax return, that's what the income is for the calculation. No big deal if you're single, but if you're married, it's something you got to think about. So that's great to do that. Now, another thing to bear in mind, when you get a job, where you work can be important. Or are you working for the government, a public entity? You're working for your town, your county, state, federal, some sort of public entity. And you're working full-time, so you're working at least 30 hours a week. Or you're working for a 501c3 charity. Or maybe you're working for a nonprofit. A lot of nonprofits can qualify what I'm about to tell you about. So if you're working full-time, there's something called the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. The federal government wants to encourage people to work full-time for the public, or for a charity or a nonprofit. And if you do that, then if you make 120 payments on your student loans while working full-time for a qualified employer and while being on a qualified repayment plan, and pay-as-you-earn is a qualifying repayment plan, then you make those 120 payments and you keep records, of every payment you made, who you were working for, everything else. Once you've made those 120 payments, you then apply to the U.S. Department of Education to have the balance of the loan discharged. And under the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, it's discharged tax-free. Okay, that's even better. So you can have an income-driven repayment plan and not have to wait 20 years. And at the end of 10 years, or however long it takes to make 120 payments under this program, you could cut things short. Now, bear in mind, there's a trap here, and sometimes this happens with people, with teachers or things like that. It's great for teachers, this program. You have to be employed full-time for that qualified employer also at the time you apply for the discharge and at the time it's granted. So don't figure, okay, I'm going to retire now. I've made my 120 payments. I'll retire. I'll make my application and I'll get my student loans back down. Don't retire until you've completed that process, because you still have to be working there, not only while you make the 120 payments, but while you are applying for the discharge and at the time you get the discharge. Okay. So that's important. But that's just fantastic you're able to do that. That's something to consider when you graduate, and if you get into an income-driven repayment plan, that could cut it short. I mean, it's a great thing to consider. So bear that in mind. Now, I just want to speak briefly if you've been maybe going to school part-time and you've been in school longer than 4 years, and maybe you have some student loans that predate, that were taken out, and you took distribution prior to October 1 of 2007. In that instance, you would not qualify for pay-as-you-earn. In that instance, but that's not to say that you can't get into an income-driven repayment plan. It's just that it's not pay-as-you-earn. You would have two choices. One, something called Repay, which started in December of 2015, or income-based repayment, IBR. Now, there's some good and bad with this, and if you're under these circumstances, I would really recommend that you talk to a student loan professional about these two programs to make sure they're right for you. Okay, and I can't stress that enough. Okay, but let me just give you a rundown of the difference between the two and the pros and cons. Income-based repayment can work on some of the older loans. There are loans that if you took out loans prior to July 1 of 2010, they could be through the federal FFEL loan program, the Federal Family Education Loan Program, and those loans don't qualify for pay-as-you-earn. You have to go through a consolidation process and things like that to qualify those loans. So that's sort of a thing you need to bear in mind if you have FFEL loans taken out prior to July 1 of 2010, that they may not qualify on that basis for pay-as-you-earn. But again, if we go back prior to 2007, there's something called Repay, as I said, and what that does is it allows everyone to get pay-as-you-earn. But there are a couple catches. Okay. For one, yes, it's 10-year. It's a 10% cap on your disposable income. Okay. But what if that 10% cap exceeds the 10-year monthly payment? Remember, I said there's no downside to being in pay-as-you-earn because it's capped at the 10-year fixed. You'll never pay more than that. Under Repay, it's 10% of your income, whatever that calculates to be, even if it's more than a 10-year fixed payment. So you don't have that that upside, that cap there. And also, I talked about being married and filing separate tax returns. With Repay, it doesn't matter. All right, if you whether you file a separate tax return or not, if you're married, your spouse's income counts towards the calculations. And also, only your undergraduate loans get a 20-year repayment plan under Repay. Graduate loans can extend to 25. So under pay-as-you-earn, it's all 20 years. Repay, it's undergraduates 20 years, graduate school can extend another 5 years to 25 years. So you got to be careful of that. Now, then there's IBR, okay, income-based repayment. That works for FFEL loans, but the cap is 15% of your disposable income and a 25-year repayment plan. So you may not be able to get as low a payment under IBR as you could under Repay or as pay-as-you-earn. But then again, if you file separate tax returns from your spouse, that income doesn't count. So there's some pros and cons between IBR and Repay that you really should talk to a student loan professional about as far as which one is right for you. So just to recap, the idea here is that gather all your information together, make sure you have everything you need on when your payments are due for your private loans or your class loans, because you don't want to fall behind on those. You want to make sure you know when you have to start making payments. Now, you may not have the flexibility of an income-driven repayment plan with federal loans, but at least you know This is when it starts, and this is where the rubber hits the road. And then get into, with your federal loans, get into an income-driven repayment plan and get it going as soon as possible. Don't wait the 6 months. Get started. Get on the road. If you don't have a job, okay. You don't have a job, your payments calculate out based on no income whatsoever, or if you've been working part-time in school, whatever that part-time income was. So that helps. There's really no reason to wait. Get into an income-based repayment plan. That's it for the program for this month on strategy for repaying loans. There's all sorts of information on my website on repaying the student loans, articles, et cetera, et cetera. There's also my book here. Let me get it in camera here. There we go. I graduated. Now what? A Guide to Dealing with Your Student Loans. You can download this for free at my website, richardson.com. It has all sorts of information on student loans. Hopefully that'll be helpful. And a lot more detailed information about these repayment plans also on the site. So take care of that in addition to the book. And there are other videos that I have on my site on this YouTube channel that deal with student loans. Take a look at those videos as well to educate yourself. Our next legal hangout for June will be on June 23rd. And we're going to talk about medical bills. Even with if you have insurance, even if you have, or if you don't have insurance, or you have something with Obamacare, medical bills can really be crushers. And there are some strategies I'd like to talk to you about with medical bills to help with that. So that's going to be our topic on June 23rd at 5 p.m. On the June Legal Hangout. So if you enjoyed this video, this program, be sure to click the like button underneath there on YouTube. And if you have been watching some of the programs and you'd like to see more, hit the subscribe button. All right. And subscribe. You'll get notices in your inbox of when there's new material, new videos posted to the channel. And hopefully they'll be very educational. I'll try to put some notes also in the show notes underneath the video on some links. So you can just click from there. So that's it. I hope you all have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend, at least in my area in southwest New Jersey. They're talking about some pretty good weather. It's kind of hot outside today, but we should be looking at some good weather for the start of the summer. So I'll see you in June.